I've been shooting film for a couple years now, and even now I still make mistakes. But here are some that I've made along my journey, so hopefully you don't have to make the same ones.
Work hard, rest often.
Hello and welcome, my name is Finn Badgley. If you're new around here, I'm a commercial photographer and all-around content creator. I love photographing on film, but it does come with some challenges and a learning curve, and even as a professional photographer for many years, I still made a lot of mistakes. So here are some ways that you can avoid making the same ones that I made. Now, the first one should be simple, but sometimes it can be easily overlooked, and that is just make sure you have film in your camera before you go out and shoot. This is the equivalent of forgetting a memory card. Now, this is just a time when I went out to take some photos of life and stuff, carried around a camera, and I thought I had film in it, and when I wound it, I was like, that's winding easier than it usually does. And that's because there's no film in it. And an easy way to check this if you're nervous because you don't want to open the back is just take a blanket or like a thick fabric that won't let any light in, cover it completely, make sure no light's getting in, and pop it open and just feel around, make sure the film is actually in there. Because you don't want to be taking photos that you think are turning out amazing, and then it turns out that you're not really taking any photos at all. They're just saved in your brain now, which is fine, but maybe you want to share those with other people too. Now, similarly, you want to make sure that when you're using a film camera, you want to make sure that the film is actually on the leader. Now, here's what I mean. See this guy here? That guy right in there? You want to make sure the film is actually on that, so when you wind it and you take a photo, that it's going to be winding and you're going to actually have film there to have it take the photo. Because sometimes you'll not quite have it super secure and it won't actually advance the film. So you're just advancing nothing and you think you've taken all these photos, but then you wind it and you maybe get one, maybe two photos if you're lucky, but probably you get nothing. Similarly, an easy way to combat that is just, again, pop that sucker open in a completely black scenario and just make sure it's on the actual spool there, so you're not gonna get screwed when you go to actually wind the film and then get it developed and you're like, oh, why did nothing turn out? Because that's why, and then you waste a roll of film. This next one pertains to expired film specifically, and there is a calculation for how many years. I think it's like for every year the film is expired, you need to add a stop of light. And I shot a roll of film that was so far expired, I don't know when it actually was originally created, because it was in a box with some film cameras that a friend of my family's gave to me, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna shoot this roll of expired film, but I didn't account for the stop loss there. Nothing came, everything was black. There was nothing, because I shot it regularly because I didn't know this, and then nothing turned out at all. It wasn't even funky like you expect expired film to be. It was just non-existent. There wasn't anything there. If you're going to shoot expired film, make sure to actually account for that. For example, I'm actually gonna make a video. I have this guy here. This is a roll of 120 film that came with my Mamiya 645 when I ordered it. And this roll is from 2005. Now, for one, you want to store these in the fridge for the best results possible, especially with expired film, but also this is from 2005 and it is 2022. So I need to account for 17 stops of light, which basically means have that on a tripod, have it with a remote shutter release. So when you hit that shutter button, it's not going to shake the camera, and just have it on bulb mode. Hold that shutter open as long as it will, shooting wide open. And this, I believe, is Portra 160. So it's not like Portra 800 or even 400, because you're losing another 2 stops from 400 to that, basically, and even more from 800. So you're gonna have such a hard time. And I'm gonna make a video actually using this, trying to make it work. I don't know if anything will turn out at all, but make sure to subscribe to see if it does, because maybe if it does, that could be cool. But expired film can be cool. Just make sure you actually know what you're doing with it. Now, these next two are just, they are embarrassing, because one of them was with my Mamiya 645, and I somehow improperly loaded a roll in it and shot it backwards. Now, I preserved the roll so I could theoretically, in a black environment, despool it and respool it and then be able to shoot it again, and it might create like a very weird, very, very slight double exposure effect just based on the amount of light that came in and hit the back of it, but it would be very slight. But yeah, just make sure it's loaded properly and you're not going to be shooting a roll backwards. This is mainly with medium format film or anything besides 35, because 35, it's a lot easier to not put it in backwards because of the canister versus the actual spool that you roll and all that kind of stuff. So just double check that, because you want to actually have the photos you take. So just don't do that. Don't be like me. This in the whole video is just don't be like me. I learned my lessons, and yeah, I learned these lessons with digital early on, you know, carry extra batteries, carrying memory cards, all that kind of stuff. But film, I didn't expect to be so humbled by it, but you know what? You live, you learn, and here we are. Now I can pass on some wisdom to you. So, last one. I got 5 here. This is the 5th one. And that is, if you watched my professional photographer shoots film for the first time video, it was in that. And that is that I tore twice. I didn't learn my lesson the first time. I tore a roll out of the canister. And here's what I mean. See, there's a button at the bottom here that the winder, it actually releases so you can rewind the film back into the canister. If you don't do that and just try to wind the canister, it will be pulling at a roll of film that isn't being given any movement. So eventually you're just gonna tear the roll out of that canister entirely. Now the way that I solved this was going to a completely pitch black environment and feeling around trying to make it work, and I had tin foil that I rolled the roll of film into, rolled that up, put it in then one of the little guys like this. I even used a black one so it wasn't like the translucent one where a little bit of light gets in. I used a black one, and then I have some exposed film tape, just some tape that says exposed film on it, and wrapped that sucker in it. And then when I dropped it off to the lab, just said, hey, this is what happened, do your best. And some of the photos actually turned out, so I can't be too mad about that one. That one was like somehow the most recoverable of all of these, even though it was one of the biggest mistakes. I don't know, it's weird. But these are a bunch of mistakes that I've made with film, and I would love to know what ones you guys have made as well, maybe to help me feel a little bit better about myself. But hopefully if you've made any of these mistakes, it makes you feel a little bit better about yourself. Now, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment. If you like this kind of thing, you want to see more different film videos from me in the future, subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the bell to be notified for all future videos. Work hard, rest often. And as always, my friends, I will see you on the next one.